Hello, everybody, and welcome back to video 2 of Chapter 8, Questions and Answers. So in the last video, we just kind of got started with some of the, I suppose, common questions that pop up when you begin to ponder all of these wonderful concepts that Scott's shared in the book, you know. And let's just dive right in, Scott, will we? We've got like number 4. Does the world continue to exist when I am not observing it? So how would you respond to that question?
Okay, so this question is deceptively simple in a way. It's kind of a naive question. It's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Or it's similar to if I stick my head in the sand, does the world still exist? So it should be obvious that it does exist. But this question was posed by George Berkeley, who is a philosopher of idealism.
Was he an Irish guy, by the way?
Yeah. And
I think he
I
was.
went
Yeah.
to UC Berkeley in California,
Oh, yeah.
California, and it's named after him.
We have a Berkeley library in Trinity here in Dublin. You know, that's kind of named after him as well. Yeah.
He's a very important philosopher. He had this thing called immaterialism, which was essentially a form of idealism. But he's asking this question because of materialists who are convinced that the world exists outside of consciousness. Berkeley is proposing this immaterialism that the world only exists through experiencing. Okay, but if the world persists when I close my eyes or when I go to sleep, how do we explain that if it's something that has to be existing in experience? That starts to mean that we have to expand our definitions of self. Because we have an individual self, but then there are larger layers of the onion.
Can I jump in here, Scott? Just when you say that thing about, you know, you go asleep and the world continues to exist, even though you've kind of zoned out into your sleep world, right? But the world goes on, thank you very much, fine, as you're sleeping. But then you say that, like, you know, you said something there about experience. How can we explain that if the world is only existing in experience? Do you mean human experience when you say that?
No, I mean,
what do you mean by that?
Experienced by a mind. So in my philosophy, the world mind is something that is experiencing the trees and the air and the world. So that is we're seeing sort of the external aspects of that imagining, of that mind imagining those things. So when we encounter a tree, we're seeing the outside of that imagination, if you will, that has infinite capacity to imagine. Okay, unlimited processing power, if you will. And so that's how it's able to imagine every leaf on every tree and every atom. It's staggering. It's amazing from our limited perspective of being humans. But when I go to sleep, it's still there because world mind is still imagining that.
Okay.
And so at the end of the day, it's similar to materialism in that it continues to exist even when I go to sleep, but it's resolved differently. One is that there's an independent existence of things outside of consciousness, and then we have the problem that we can't really explain consciousness. And that's essentially the problem materialism has. Or the world can be something that is a work of imagination that is being experienced by a mind. But that mind isn't your individual mind. It's a much vaster, intelligent mind that is holding all of the physical world in it. What we call the physical world is subject to the laws of physics, but that is all within, that's the studying and weighing and measuring all of those qualities of world mind.
So sorry, this is this is fun, by the way, and I'm probably getting myself in a twist early on in this video, but just for the fun of it, like, I totally get what you're saying there about world mind, and that there's a bigger mind in which all of this kind of like unlimited creativity, like everything that we experience in material reality is the imagination of this vast mind, much, much bigger than any of our individual minds, right? But so in the imagining, let's just call it the imagining of like the creative principle or whatever, right? Or you call it the imagining of world mind, I think. Yeah. So
or in the imagination of the universe.
Yeah, imagination of the universe. Yeah, so the universe is just using its imagination to create this beautiful dance, which is what we're part of. Yeah, we're kind of woven into it. This could be pedantic now, forgive me if it is, but what's experiencing what there in that view? Is the universe experiencing its imagination, or like I'm just a little lost in.
Well, we're missing half of the question there, which is the soul side. Missing the whole invisible domain and its continual interaction with the visible domain. So in the case of a human individual, you have a body, and your body is something that is imagined in world mind. It actually belongs to world mind, just like a rock or a tree does. The body is no different. It's just stuff. But what animates your body is your soul. And so there's a continual interaction from the microscopic all the way up to the entire body, through the chakras, through all of these systems, where your soul is interfacing with your world mind representation, your body. So there's body and soul. And so this idea of body and soul having a sacred marriage, and that's the case for the human individual, but that's also the case for the planet or for larger structures. There's a soul equivalent to that physical structure. There's a soul structure, and these structures are vital, they're alive, they're minds that are continually interacting. And so it's hard to tease apart and say, well, this body, this human body is just a physical thing, because it's not. Your soul is animating that body, and you're making choices that affect the body and alter it. It's all about the nature side. The nurture side versus the nature side. It's sort of the way you live your life is really controlled by the soul, but it's in the framework of the limitations of the body, right? So what I'm trying to say is there's more to it. There's a continual intermixing of body and soul at every level that gives rise to our experience. And so you're never alone in the sense that you're just a body in a lifeless universe having no purpose. It's actually quite the opposite. There's huge amounts of interaction just at your scale of being a human individual, even with higher levels of intelligence that are giving you inspiration. And we've talked about that mythologically as the muses whispering in your ear and giving you this inspiration. That could be communication from a higher, a larger, more vast mind or intelligence that is giving you the key information at the right moment to propel you along your hero's journey through this life.
Yeah. I'm signed up to all of that. Yeah. I mean, I'm the more you speak, you're putting it beautifully. Yeah. You're I absolutely get where you're coming from, so that question of Berkeley's it's like a Zen koan, really, isn't it? To make you to invite you into this way of thinking about.
The more I think about it, it's more like an invitation to start exploring vaster minds.
Yeah.
Because of course, when you close your eyes, when you go to sleep, you're not experiencing the physical world anymore. You're actually experiencing the dream world, and with a dream body, having a potentially very different experience that isn't subject to the laws of physics, because it's not even in that world. but that world still exists in another mind. And so this is where we have to start theorizing about how this is structured. And I've done a lot of that in coming up with this framework that gives space to the soul, gives space to the body, gives space to spirituality, gives space to science, and seeing how they interact, you see? Whereas I think a lot of these different intellectual pursuits limit them, that they draw a circle around themselves, like, for example, with science, and they say, we're only going to study things that we can weigh and measure. Well, that's fine, but that's limited, isn't it? That doesn't really purport to be a theory of everything. That's just a theory of a certain set of things, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, so I'm trying to really get a vaster view of what's happening and try to paint a picture that's as clear as possible. And I think if you look at my diagrams in the book, you'll see it's pretty clear. There's circles within circles, there's interaction. It can be as complicated as you want to make it, but there's a certain beautiful clarity to this picture, I think.
Yeah. We were just talking earlier before we jumped on here, and you were helping me refresh my thinking on all these terms, which, to be honest, sometimes I find heavy, you know, like you were explaining to me what panpsychism is, what cosmopsychism is, what idealism is, you know, and we were kind of joking around, and I'm like, Scott, what am I actually, you know? And you explained it so beautifully, and you know, it kind of got me to a place where I kind of went, aha, yes. But I think it could be useful in terms of the tree falling in the forest. I know I'm probably hijacking all the time of this video, but seeing as we're so far into Reality Atlas, I think let's just enjoy ourselves and go with this, because I do think it's helpful. I found it very helpful when you explained the difference between those things in the shadow of this question about if the tree falls in the forest, do we hear it? After our little chat, and when you brought me back to idealism, I kind of went, oh, but yes, of course, you know. So
maybe I can summarize that, like, pre-talk that we had here.
Yeah, would you? That's what I was thinking, because what it does then is it puts the whole tree in the forest in a much vaster kind of perspective, where you can kind of go, oh yes, but of course the tree is going to make a sound then, you know. So that if we could bring people there, I think it could be a cool trip. What do you think?
Sure. So let's start off on that journey. So
Yeah.
The one philosophical stance is materialism, that there's a tree outside there and there's a forest outside there that's totally separate from you, separate from consciousness. There's no consciousness there. It's just a thing. That's our kind of default paradigm. I don't need to belabor it.
Yeah.
But the problem with
weird paradigm, by the way, but yeah.
The problem with that approach is that we have a hard problem of consciousness that we can't explain with materialism. Because how is it that things that are just inert stuff suddenly have an interior perspective and have an inner life and have a point of view? How does that emerge? And so that usually in philosophy, it's in science, it's kind of a promissory note that we might understand that someday, but we don't.
Bear with us.
We just bear with us, because it doesn't really make any sense to us at the moment, but maybe it will. And other philosophers are like, well, it could never make sense, because materialism doesn't have anything in it that would ever explain consciousness. Okay, so then people are starting to seek out from that viewpoint. They're starting to look for consciousness out there in the world. And so that's what panpsychism is about. The term pan means like everywhere. So maybe psychism or consciousness is everywhere. And so there's different ways of looking at that. It could be that consciousness has little units, like the philosopher Leibniz thought of them as monads that were separate from atoms, but nevertheless, they were things out there in the world. And when you aggregate them together, in the form of a human brain, then you have a lot of those consciousness units together, and then you have a person who's conscious. And so that's one approach. It's kind of a bottom-up approach of having little consciousness units that you bring together to make a consciousness. The other approach is the top-down approach, cosmopsychism, where you say, well, the universe itself is conscious, and then everything within that is less conscious. Okay, but these are the problems, and if you start to think about them, they don't make any sense. When you start to have, when you probe your inner experience through like a practice like meditation or non-dualism, you start to see that there are no levels of consciousness. There are no divisions or gradations within consciousness. So how could it be that you could have more or less consciousness? It's like, are you aware or not? I think you are.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you could be more aware or less aware. Either you're aware or not. It's kind of on or off in my view.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
And so looking at these systems where you have more or less consciousness units doesn't make any sense ultimately. But it's an admirable pursuit to go out and to look for consciousness out there in the world, because you know it doesn't materialism itself doesn't answer that. It's a hard problem. And so we're looking for it. Is it in the small stuff, or is it in the big stuff? Is it in the quantum world, or is it in the astronomical world? You know, and so we're looking for it. But all of those people that are looking for consciousness in the world are really missing the point, because the world itself is a work of consciousness. It is a work of imagination. It is in mind. It is a mental experience, right? And so that's the philosophy of idealism, is that there is no ontological basis for materialism. There is only experiencing. And this is where idealism has a lot in common with non-dualism and with spiritual traditions, because people that have gone inward have seen these things, the mystics from the past. And so the philosophers of idealism, like George Berkeley or Leibniz, are basically coming around through the exploration of science, of the stuff outside. They're coming around to what the mystics have found by going inward. And all roads lead to consciousness.
Yeah.
You know?
And I was thinking part of that conversation we were having, which I really liked, was we two of our influences, you know, are Bernardo Kastrup and Rupert Spira. And I was just asking you there, you know, like Bernardo Kastrup is kind of the champion of idealism, you know, and I suppose he's from the more scientific camp, you know, that's his background. And he's kind of a credible scientist that has broken into this idealist worldview. And he's very articulate in how he presents it. And then Rupert Spira, who's another main influence. I'm just back from a big workshop with him, and he's an amazing guy. And I completely drink the Rupert Spira Kool-Aid wholeheartedly, right? For me personally, I just go, wow, it's great. And it's very, if your brain is fried here, dear viewer or listener, you're right on track, right? Because this concept is a brain like boggling pursuit, and it takes a while for the penny to drop. It's a very simple idea. It's not like a hard thing, but I just, if you're feeling like, what are they talking about? I was like that for like ages, and I flip and flop in and out of it, by the way, you know. But I was thinking of metaphors. I sometimes feel metaphors are helpful for explaining it, you know. And Rupert Spira uses the screen, the TV screen, more than anything else. He goes on and on about the screen, and he's very eloquent in how he uses that metaphor. But for some reason, Bernardo has used a different one, which it's probably more simplistic, but it really works for me, right? In terms of this worldview, in that there's only one thing, which is awareness, right? There's just everything that exists in this one thing, awareness, you know? Everything that's material, everything that's not material, everything that's invisible, everything that's visible, every possible, there only is awareness, right? And I was kind of going, what is he talking about? And then he said, like, imagine a stream, like an infinite stream that just goes forever and covers everything, right? And what you have then are what he calls excitations in consciousness. And an excitation is basically just a whirlpool in the stream, okay? And everything that arises as a whirlpool, this excitation in consciousness. So you could have something like a daisy, you know, something as simple as a little flower, or a human would be a slightly different, bigger whirlpool using this metaphor. And then you could have like a solar system or a galaxy, again, just a whirlpool in consciousness. And then back to our question, does sound happen when a tree falls in the forest? Well, the tree and the forest are just like a whirlpool, an excitation in consciousness, in awareness. I'm using consciousness and awareness interchangeably here, you know, but is that a fair metaphor, Scott, to explain where we've got to? Because I sort of hang my hook on that one about the stream and the whirlpools. Is it helpful? Does it make sense?
It is. It's a good metaphor, but it makes me think of the term non-dualism. Like you're describing kind of a monism of there's only awareness, right? And there's a truth to that, but there's also a truth to the solidity of the rock and the tree and the seemingly material quality of them, right?
Yeah.
There's kind of an objectness to them that is undeniable. And that is sort of, think of the Buddhist Heart Sutra with about emptiness and form. They're being the same thing. So there is a kind of, we have to make a conceit to form having this kind of existence, but underneath that, we know that that form is something that is imagined by a mind.
Yes.
And so it's empty. There is nothing there. But there's also a freaking rock in the road. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like,
but does that depend on?
It's not one and it's not two.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's a paradox that we can't resolve. And that's
Yeah.
why spin our wheels a lot trying to understand it, because it isn't really understandable by the mind, which is a kind of form.
Yes. Yeah.
The form can't understand formlessness because you're asking it to do something that it can't do. It's not, doesn't compute.
Yeah.
But your awareness can experience that.
Yeah.
You can experience going beyond your mind. Isn't it true you can sit there without thinking?
Yeah. I'm just thinking about, you know, the rock being a rock, and if somebody threw a rock, you know, in your face, you would definitely feel it, you know, and you'd be like, oh my God, like materialism is a real deal, you know. Yeah. But then I think from using this metaphor of the stream, doesn't it depend on your point of view? So if I'm viewing the rock as a human, temporary arising of a whirlpool in the infinite stream, and I'm a human now, and the rock is also a temporary arising, an excitation in the stream. And if I throw the rock, I have the experience of a human throwing a rock, right? That's just something I get to enjoy in this manifestation. But I have to be in human form to see the rock, right? If I just dissolve back into the stream and just become the stream, you know, like it, then everything is just an excitation out of this one thing. And we can flip between both, you know. But when you're just like awareness, there is no rock in a way, or tree.
Or the existence of the human or the rock or anything you can let go of. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think in a way that's what happens when you die, is you kind of let go of all of the dramas, and
Yeah.
oh, there's a relief.
Yeah.
Rock becomes the ocean.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's so dramatic as the loss of all individuality. I think that there's a moment of refreshment, but I think that your individuality goes on the soul, in the soul side, and
Do you?
it
Yeah.
is with you in your next incarnation. And
Well,
the reason I say that is because of the accumulated wisdom of all of these spiritual traditions that talk about reincarnation,
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
existence of mediums who can communicate with the souls of the deceased,
Mm-hmm.
and people that have near-death experiences where they have a phenomenal experience when they have no brain activity.
Mm.
So, and they have it through the guise of a body in a world
Mm-hmm.
as some kind of individual. So
Mm.
there's more complexity than simply dissolving into the ocean and game over, end of story.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. And I actually asked Rupert Spira this question, and I'm not sure if I totally got it great. And maybe I didn't articulate it very well, but this is a big ticket question, and you see, I like me. I'm pretty attached to me and meanness, and I'm kind of like, I'm hoping a little bit of this dude, carries on into the great mystery and comes back as a dog or a bird or something cool, and we go round and round in the cycles of, what is it, in and out of samsara, isn't it? The cycle of being born and dying and being born again. And I mean, I don't know. It's a mystery to me. I don't know the answer to that is the truth, but I'm really, really interested in that question. I'm really interested in how much of our kind of, let's say, our energetic pureness, whatever part of us that is the real authentic
Your
soul
soul,
part.
I would call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much of that transcends, into the infinite stream, and hangs out there and then re-arises, carrying through some of that energetic quality. I mean, I'd like to think that a good bit of it goes through, but I didn't really get to the bottom of it with Rupert in terms of, I'm not sure if he was more of the feeling that it is just dissolving into the infinite ocean. I mean, I don't want to, I'm definitely not quoting him here, because I'm just sort of reaching in the dark with this question, because I think it's a really meaningful question, actually.
Yeah, and in my exploration of Rupert Spira's work, he hasn't really ever gotten into that area, and I don't think he needs to, because his whole forte is bringing people into this experience, into this figure ground shift of the absolute, and that's enough.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, in a way, I'm kind of in between Kastrup and Spira in a sense.
Okay.
Because I like to theorize with my mind, and I like to think about the layers of the onion, and I like to speculate about what that might be. Now, I don't have that experience right now, and I don't think anyone does. I mean, I guess the best people to ask would be people who remember their last incarnations, or people who have had NDEs, or people who have communicated through a medium. For example, there are ways to kind of see through to the other side. And so those are really interesting areas for me to look at.
Me too.
But I'm not satisfied with just dissolving, the drop dissolving into the ocean, game over, let's go home now. I think there's much more richness to it, because when you think about, if the entire universe is a work of imagination with infinite capacity and infinite processing power and essentially infinite intelligence, why wouldn't awareness imagine everything imaginable? Why would we say, oh, well, there's no aliens? We're not going to imagine that. Oh, and we're not going to imagine life after death. No, that's out of the picture. These are kind of like just human blind spots and human limitations of our how far we've probed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that that is an indication of what you would do with infinite capacity and infinite time. And you're going to explore everything explorable, aren't you? You're not, there's
Yeah.
going to be nothing off limits. You're going to just imagine as much as you want.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that why not imagine a richness of complexity that exists after you die?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And what if our participation in that imagining influences the outcome? It's kind of a creepy thought in a way,
Yeah.
It's kind of like for atheists, there is nothing, bang, blackout, see you later, it's all over, For psychedelic spiritual hippie types, it's all a cosmic disco, when the lights go out, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm goofing around here a little bit, I'm
Sure,
not,
but why wouldn't you want to imagine something fantastic and wonderful that happens
yeah,
rather
exactly.
than just like blackness, non-existence,
Mm-hmm.
being kind of trapped in
Yeah,
a hell of your own making,
yeah.
I think
And
we got to be careful not to do that because it's
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, the other thing I think about as well is, the way we're all like, working towards that big day when we check out of here, and take our last breath. And it's the big day where we transition over or whatever. But then I have always thought that that's kind of like leaving it too late, that like the work you do now while you're fully here, fully embodied is really important. What I mean by that is, if you close your eyes and you just like ignite your imagination, and even you just, like create some beautiful visual landscapes, and imagine, just imagine, beings. And I'm not saying this is any kind of real like communication beyond just simple imagining. An individual human's mind capacity to imagine is a phenomenal gift of consciousness.
And oftentimes we do that passively by watching dramas on Netflix.
Yeah,
We watch
yeah.
these fabulous productions that have been acted out by great actors and
Mm-hmm.
written by brilliant writers.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it all comes down to those writers imagining it all, doesn't it?
Exactly,
And those
exactly.
actors
Yeah.
acting out that what the writers have written
Imagined. Yeah,
and imagined. But you
yeah,
yourself have that capacity to imagine. Now, it's
exactly.
not going to probably be as sophisticated as a team of writers who are really good at what they're doing, presenting
Yeah.
the story, but there's something to switching from being a consumer, a passive consumer of things that are given to you, versus
Mm-hmm.
an active producer of new imaginings.
But that's the big reward, because I sort of think, obviously I love Lord of the Rings, probably one of my all-time favorite movies, The Matrix, The Wachowskis. Oh my goodness, like thank you for like your brilliance, and I enjoy all those things like everyone does. But there is something about like, enjoying the work of another, which is a beautiful thing to be able to do, and we're receiving that as an enjoyable experience. But when we imagine from within, just to echo what you're saying, Scott, we then become like, I think it's almost like a mirroring of the creative imagination of the universe, whatever that bigger version of it is that when you begin to actually allow yourself imagine, kind of like, there's a lovely quote from John O'Donoghue. I love this Irish philosopher dude. He's really brilliant. And he said one time, he said, what would happen if you just let your mind off? Just let your mind off there now and see where it goes. Like there's a poet called Patrick Kavanagh that he speaks about. And it was like, what would happen if you just took the halter and the blinkers off the horse, and just let it run wild? Do that with your imagination. Do that. Like, it's a gift that we've all been given, and it's like limitless,
I mean,
and
that is literally what created the universe.
that's it. And then we are kind of participating in the creative dance. You know, we are kind of in harmony with this natural outflow, you know, at every level.
Like the writers have tuned into that in a big way of these shows.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, that's where I want to be. I want to be
Me
at the
too.
in the writer's seat in a way, because
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas just sitting back on the sofa and watching can be interesting, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have the same feeling of being part of it.
It's more you're being I mean, I don't want to dismiss art and creativity and culture and music, because these things lift us up and inspire us, you know. But there's something, I'm just trying to make a distinction between, let's say I sit down and watch my all-time favorite movie, The Matrix, right? I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to celebrate the magic of the writers, the creativity, the actors. It's amazing in every way. That's an enjoyable experience. It's just a different experience to if I sit on the same couch, turn off the TV, close my eyes, and allow my own organic imagination to arise. Let my mind off, as John O'Donoghue would say, let it off. And then I just go with that. Then it's like this inner force almost begins to work through you, you know. And the imagination is like, I just feel it's such an utilized resource, you know, that like nobody says, there's no Netflix option that says turn off your TV now, close your eyes and just imagine your little head off there for 45 minutes. You know, people are like, what? No way, you know. But I mean maybe that sounds like a bit like of a crackpot idea, but I actually really, it's in all of my work, it's what I'm trying to champion, actually, to just get people to close their eyes and even give themselves 10 minutes where they can begin to come into harmony with this principle.
A dream at night.
Yeah.
Kind of, usually it's kind of a passive experience where you find yourself in this situation, in this bizarre thing happening, and you're just like, wow, what was
mad.
that about?
Yeah.
If you've ever had a lucid dream, you're in this weird situation, but somehow you realize that you're in a dream.
Yeah.
Then you start to think, well, if I'm in a dream, can I make a different choice? And what if I did this? I don't like what's happening here. I'm going to change it. And I often have that ability to fly in a dream. When I realize that I'm in a dream, I just fly, like kind of like
had a lucid
Neo
dream
in the Matrix. I'll just fly like that.
Wow.
And
have you been able to have a lucid dream?
Yeah.
Have you? Wow.
Yeah, but not every time. But
sure.
When you do have one, it's so exciting. You wake up so energized, like, oh my God, I love that. You know, and it's because you became the creator.
Yeah. You became awake in your dream.
Yeah, rather than the audience, you become the actor, and you're just like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I love it.
And talking about metaphor, Scott, that like becoming awake in the dream is a perfect metaphor for all you have to do is replay that in real life. So we are technically in a dream right now, kind of sleepwalking through our life a lot of the time, but we can do the same thing where we wake up to go, oh my God, like I am aware, you know, and now I'm awareness, having this experience of being Geoff as a human in this trip of life. And that changes everything, literally everything. Now, then I normally forget about it and I'm just back in the world, you know. But when you go, a great question to ask is just, am I aware? Like, am I aware? And don't answer the question. Just like, you kind of go, you click with it. And it's like everything changes. I've tried so many times to have a lucid dream. I even brought a guy over from America and we did workshops and I did like dream journaling and I tried everything to become lucid. I wanted to go, like, I wanted to fly to the moon. And at the time I was really interested in Jung, and I had the whole visual worked out where we were going to be in like those two armchairs like Neo and Morpheus from the Matrix. I was going to sit down on the moon and have a kind of a brother to brother with Carl Jung, you know? And so this was like it was a pretty elaborate dream. How could, you know, so I was like, okay, when I get lucid, I want to know what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do. Fly to the moon, chat with Jung, pretty cool. Okay. Then I finally got lucid, right? I finally got lucid and I woke up in a dream where I was just brushing my teeth in my very mundane bathroom, right? So not very exciting, not like flying to the moon. And I put my toothbrush down and realized it was a bit of a weird looking toothbrush. It was a little bit fatter and chunkier and I went, oh, hang on, Geoff, this could be a dream. And I finally got to wake up. And I was like, and I said, okay. And then I did a couple of these lucid tests. I said, okay, if I can telepathically move the toothbrush with my mind, I know I'm in a dream. That was my kind of confirmation cue. And I went, douche. And the toothbrush moved. And I was like, oh. Yeah. And then I did it again.
It's like in the Matrix when there's a spoon and the child says, don't try to bend the spoon. That's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Realize the truth. There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. It's a great scene. It's a great scene.
So true. You're like, it's a invitation to go to another level.
But you know what? I got so excited with my toothbrush, my telepathic toothbrush moving, that I then said, what'll I do now? I forgot about flying to the moon to interview Jung. And I said, I'm going to go from my bathroom into my bedroom and look at myself sleeping, right? That's what I decided to do. Okay. But the minute I went into my bedroom door, I woke up. I just totally lost all the dream and everything. I was just back in my bed. I was gutted. I was like, no, no. I never got, it's the only lucid dream I've ever had. You know, I find that tricky, but I would love to really get there with that. I think it's incredible too.
An ultra vivid dream where
oh yeah,
so visual and just like dripping with
yeah, meaning and yes, God, I have. Yeah, they're incredible. Yeah, I've had many of those, but I'm just a dream character, fully absorbed in the dream, which is amazing, by the way. I've had dreams of snowboarding across galactic bridges between cosmoses, you know, on some amazing snowboard, and it was, I woke up exhilarated with joy from, you know,
when I have a lucid dream, it usually is with me flying, and it's not like so effortless, like kind of Neo flies around in the Matrix, like super.
Yeah.
It actually requires a lot of willpower to like kind of float and move across the land. And then what will happen is I'll exhaust that and I'll come back down.
I get you.
And so I think it's like a muscle where you have to practice it. Like,
yeah,
you have to, with lucid dreaming, you have to practice that, and you have to, just have more experiences like that, and try to prolong it. And
yeah, it's about consistency, and actually, it takes real discipline, to be honest, which isn't my strong suit. You know, hey, I'm just thinking, Scott. Wow. Have we got a long way from our question? Thank you, dear. Here's where I'm at, right? If we have our cherished Reality Atlas people with us now at this stage, I think it's kind of nice to open up about who we are actually, you know, and these questions are, it's kind of us just being us, you know, in a way. So I'm sorry it's going to take us a long time to get through questions and answers. We've only done one there. And we've gone for 45 minutes.
2 or 3, you know. So
yeah. So tomorrow maybe I'll stop talking about lucid dreaming and we'll try and get through a few more questions, you know. But I hope this was enjoyable at least, you know. It was certainly enjoyable to make the video. You know, I enjoyed it. I hope you did too, Scott. Yeah. But let's reconvene tomorrow on question 5. If all is mental, then why is the universe so orderly? My mind is certainly not like that. Okay, cool. So let's kick off there tomorrow then, will we? And yeah, we'll stick to the knitting a little bit more tomorrow, you know. But this was a fun one. This was a fun one. And when the tree falls in the forest, it does make a sound. Thank you, everybody.